I suspected there was more to this, judging by how quickly we completed the investigation. No offense to your powers of deduction, of course.
I had better start from the beginning. It would not do to involve Madame Khpein with our affairs without first ensuring she possesses a proper understanding of how our seminary functions, and how we have been forced to change. You see, most men and women of the cloth go on to live fulfilling lives as pastors, academics, and poets. However, those who graduate from the Scholasticate with the highest marks are given an opportunity to serve in the vault and perhaps one day rise to prominence. The stakes are quite high for those who seek such prestige, for they know full well that their academic performance may determine their future. It is they who strive for the top 3 seats that are granted the Scholasticate's official endorsement, the Trinity.
And so those who wish to guide Ishgard's faithful spend their days accumulating marks through academic pursuits, while at the same time honing their skills to persuade others to share their interpretations of scripture.
Up until now, it resulted in no more than the occasional lively debate, for the Holy See was ultimately responsible for dictating doctrine. Ranking was naturally determined by one's familiarity with said doctrine. However, in light of recent events, that is no longer an option. Simply put, we cannot currently assess their academic performance in the traditional manner, as a significant portion of the curriculum has been called into question. As a result, we have been forced to consider more subjective methods.
And in this time of uncertainty, students are wont to lash out at their peers, whom they fear will exploit this interim system to their advantage. Distressing, I suppose, but what does this have to do with us?
I require your unparalleled skills of observation and deduction. The only way to put an end to this bickering between students is to ensure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that our interim evaluations are conducted in a fair and equitable manner. I ask you to stand as an observer. Until a new curriculum is decided, our evaluation system is vulnerable.
In other words, you want us to catch the cheaters.
Precisely. Now then. I have received word that the headmistress has returned to her office in the cathedral. I would ask that you introduce yourselves. But there is something you should keep in mind when speaking with Headmistress Elviana. She was appointed to her position by the former Archbishop, thus her views on the curriculum are quite traditional. I would advise you to discuss matters regarding the Holy See with the utmost care.
You need not speak while in the chapel, for the Fury can hear the whispers of your soul.
When my grandson became a knight of House Four Temps, I was so proud. But now, every day I come to pray for his safe return.
What lies beyond is not for the eyes of an unbeliever.
As the shepherd watches over his flock, so do we of St. Raymonord's Cathedral care for those who seek sanctuary in these trying times. May the grace of Halone keep you safe on your journey.
Although Uncle said we should speak with care, we would be remiss in our duties if we refrained from asking difficult questions. I trust you agree. We have been expecting you. The headmistress awaits you within.
Headmistress Elviana, may I have the pleasure to introduce the individuals who shall be in charge of keeping order at the Scholasticate. This is Consulting Inspector Briardine and his associate, Miqo'te Khpein.
Miqo'te Khpein. I must say, Father Bruvignan, your selections are rather appropriate. Ahem. We thank you both for your service in our time of need. I trust that Father Bruvignan has briefed you on our humble seminary. Saint Endalim's Scholasticate has produced Ishgard's finest clergy for centuries, including countless men and women who have served in the highest echelons of the Holy See.
All of whom were spared a brutal death on the battlefield, in service to a misguided war they perpetuated. Or so some might be given to say.
Indeed some might, and they would not be entirely mistaken. For while we were wholly unaware of the deception perpetuated by the archbishops, we did unwittingly sustain it, to our sorrow. The idea that we willingly subjected them to false precepts is, of course, preposterous, a contrived fantasy. Nevertheless, some fervently believe it true, and these self-same individuals have come to view our instructors and students as targets for their misguided anger. It is of paramount importance that we restore faith in the teachings. Yet how are we to regain the trust of the common man when our own seminarians are embroiled in childish quarrels?
You refer to this tension regarding the interim evaluation system.
Quite frankly, it is but one facet. Classes have also been suspended until we complete our own painstaking review of the curriculum. Some students have taken leave, while the more dedicated have taken it upon themselves to conduct independent work to demonstrate their merits.
We cannot allow this situation to continue indefinitely. Graduation is approaching, and we must make our recommendations. But the senior class is divided. They know not how they will be evaluated.
Rather, they understand how they will be evaluated, but have no faith that our methods will produce a fair result, a concern not without merit, I must confess. I too suspect that some may be driven to manipulate the interim system to their advantage.
I expect some have already tried. But that is why we have brought in outside observers. Inspector Briardine, Miqo'te Khpein, if anyone is engaging in unscrupulous behavior, I should have it brought to an end at once. May the Fury guide you in your task.
The chamber for the headmistress of St. Endalim's Scholasticate lies beyond. As she is quite busy these days, those without arrangements for an audience will be asked to leave.
So the headmistress also thinks some of the students have attempted to cheat.
Surely one who desires to join the clergy would not be foolish enough to stoop to such behavior. The Fury knows all and sees all.
Now then, before we proceed, might you both tell us a little about your students, Father?
My apologies. I am Father Saturnois. In addition to teaching the fundamentals of Hellenic polity, I also oversee fundraising for the stipends of underprivileged students. While I would like to help you, I think my opinion would not do them justice. I would suggest getting to know them yourselves.
I feel the same. The way in which pupils speak in front of their instructors is not the same as amongst themselves. In my 10 years of counseling, they have minded their etiquette and are not but cordial to me. However, I can recommend one of my students who is quite vocal. Mayhap you try speaking with the dormitory prefect, Arcombadine. Given his closeness to the students' social affairs, he may also be able to give you insight into what they talk about.
Arcombadine. Ah yes, the silver-haired boy, the son of House Zemail, as I recall. We shall heed your suggestion, Sister Gaetel, given his duty and status.
You need not speak while in the chapel, for the Fury can hear the whispers of your soul.
Pray keep your voice down when inside the Scholasticate.
Fury take me, must we revise the entire curriculum?
Soleil's lackey is helping the inspector now.
While I have little interest in noble bloodlines, I am not unfamiliar with the Count de Zemail's sons. Has no one ever told you that brandishing weapons is frowned upon in places of enlightenment? That is, unless Lee has sent you to stir up more trouble. Rest assured that my associate inspector draws her armaments only to resolve troublesome situations, not create them. We merely came to ask of your well-being and your expectations for the future.
Under the auspices of the headmistress, I am sure. Very well. I, Libresoyer de Beaumfoyt of House Beaumfoyt, in service to House Zemail, present to you Arcombadine de Zemail. As prefects for the Scholasticate dormitory, we are responsible for keeping the peace between our fellow seminarians. Correct me if I am wrong, but are you not the foreigner who went to rather great lengths to expose the Archbishop's falsehoods? Responsible for the re-evaluation of the entire curriculum.
Quite the resolution, that. And for what? Every great nation's history is marred by the sins of the past. Elamigo. Yuldar. Limsa. Please. Each was built on a foundation of lies and blood. Which is not to say we elites should not learn from these mistakes. But we who have served as shepherds of the people for 1,000 years have a duty to maintain order through the preservation of tradition. Would a Wainwright cast aside his father's best cart when it has but a broken wheel?
Indeed. Arcombadine and I have said as much to those who support a more radical approach. The last thing we need is young seminarians running about crying for reformation.
I see. So you both have been quite active in convincing the other students to see things your way. How have you fared? 'Tis hardly a daunting task. Many seek comfort in consistency. Sister Gaetel has tasked us with bringing back the students who took leave. Why not let our results determine how persuasive we are? I thank you gentlemen for your cooperation, and wish you the best of luck with your efforts. Now then, Kaneko time, if these students are bringing back their truant peers, there must be others who are doing the same. Let us split up and seek out the participants. In addition to preserving the other students' welfare, we prefects also take it upon ourselves to conduct study sessions and volunteer activities, so that all may receive of a rich and fulfilling education.
By the grace of the Count de Zemail was I admitted to the Scholasticate, that I might remain by Arcombadine's side. He is the sun which shines the light of truth throughout these halls, and I am but the moon which reflects his radiance.
A new exotic flower graces us with her presence today. Well met, my dear.
And what am I? Chopped liver. Humph. He was looking at me until you showed up.
Ah, I see. So you are helping Inspector Briardyne. A pleasure to meet you. I am Cramavoyada Maintigny, but you may address me simply by my first name. So what brings you to the pillars? Could it be you are to observe how we go about convincing truant seminarians to return? Then by all means, let me show you how it is done.
I must admit, I find many of the other students rather intimidating, but thanks to Cramavoy, I am considering returning to the Scholasticate to resume my studies. We were just discussing the responsibility the Highborn have to redress the imbalance. Of the Fury's love will all men receive, and by the balance of her spear will all be set free. So it is written in volume 11 of the 72 articles of Hellenic polity.
Equal under her ever-watchful gaze. Ah, would that you graced our halls with your presence once more, that I might favor you with mine own gaze. I fondly recall seeing your lovely face always buried in that tome.
O Cramavoy, you did notice. I thought to pen a lengthy treatise on it, but I could not make do once the volume vanished.
Oh, so you helped Mathai by searching for that tome? With how irrelevant the content has become these days, I suppose it is not surprising it would go missing.
In any event, you've convinced me. I will gather my things and return to the dormitory straight away.
Yes, that is the way. One must seize the moment and act upon one's convictions. Life is but a fleeting, fragile thing. Wouldn't you agree, my dear? Well, I have done my part in guiding a little lamb back to the flock. And now to celebrate with a well-deserved nap. I bid you both farewell.
Is this a P or an R?
Miqo'te, it's good to see you. Fighting the good fight lately.
Oh. Hello, Miqo'te. Lee and I were just about to visit our friends in Foundation and try to convince them to return to their studies.
It's been difficult since we aren't exactly held in high regard right now. The dormitory prefects have made sure of that.
We must do all in our power to motivate our friends to come back to the Scholasticate. Then we can strive for high marks together.
Right. And then, we can convince our peers that we are just as worthy as any highborn in the clergy. They will welcome us with open arms, and all will be well in Ishgard. If our Combadian and his cronies receive the Scholasticate's endorsement, no one will ever listen to us. We can't let them take the Trinity.
I would rather not think of it that way, Lee. Let us just focus on bringing back as many people as we can.
Well, that's how the highborn are thinking about it. The more vocal we become, the more they will see us as a threat. That's why we have to stick together.
I'll take 2 of everything. In gold and silver. Is this a P or an R?
Pray keep your voice down when inside the Scholasticate.
Curious about the result? I cannot imagine why. I see no reason to expect anything surprising.
After reviewing the preliminary numbers at the dormitory, I am looking forward to the results.
If our performance is to be taken into account for the final rankings, then I must say our Combadian and I have nothing to worry about.
With all the young women returning, mayhap I will have more incentive to linger in the library. But I do not see a lack.
The dormitory rat has quite a smile on his face. Could it be that he was able to gather more students than us?
Well, I did everything I could. And even if I did not guide them all myself, I am glad that so many of our peers have come back.
We shall announce the results anon.
It would seem that our Combadin and Lebraswa had quite the advantage, given their experience managing the dormitory.
Right, then. Let us see how competitive these students truly are. It brings me joy to see so many of our brothers and sisters return to the Scholasticate. Sister Gaetel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, our Combadin. I will now announce how many of our stray sheep each student persuaded to come home. Both Theomosent and Lev were able to bring back 1 student each. Janchit guided 2 back into our arms. Our Combadin and Lebrasoy were each able to convince 3 students to return, the most of all. Excellent work, all of you. Oh, is this true? Are we missing someone from the count?
The girl you speak of has formally withdrawn from the Scholasticate. Apparently she was not all that enthusiastic about returning as she led Kramevoy to believe. Mayhap she chose to play along so that he would cease his harassment.
Perhaps it was for the best. She rarely engaged her fellow students, instead choosing to sit alone and read the articles of Halonic polity. Given the recent revelations, I suspect she became disillusioned with the faith.
Strange you would say that, Lebrasler. When last I spoke with her, Ola was quite interested in volume 11's equal under her ever watchful gaze passage, one that you and your master would sooner pretend did not exist. If she were the victim of harassment, I rather expect it was at your hands.
Are you implying that we had something to do with it because we did not share her views? What rot. You dishonor yourself and your house with such baseless accusations, rather you would, if aught remained of your house to dishonor.
I yelled, good sir, I yelled. I lack the qualities the Honorable Lord our combatant possesses which enable him to deliver such observations. Well, if Ola has withdrawn, then I must mourn her departure, by walking through the dormitory halls reciting excerpts from volume 11.
And how do you intend to do that? Volume 11 of the Articles of Hellenic Polity has been missing for some time now.
The tomes themselves are inconsequential if one has taken the words to heart. How fortunate we are that the wisdom of our forebears is not so easily forgotten, would you not agree?
Such impudence as befits a sixth son. For all his failings, his father was wise to send him away.
At any rate, we are blessed that this handful of truants have returned to us. Truly, it is the Furies' will that we overcome these trials and tribulations, and move forward with a singular vision for the future.
A student with a keen interest in a controversial precept who withdraws without explanation. This seems rather odd to me as well. Mayhap it is worthy of our attention,